All right. Hey, friends. Back again with another Testimony Tuesday. I'm Deshante. Thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to talk about a little bit of my testimony of how I came into relationship with God. My journey started in 2017. It probably started before then, like when I was a kid. I did go to church with my grandmother, and I remember like Sunday school, but I don't remember anything too deep about the Lord. And then in my teens, I don't really feel like I went to church, actually. And I think I talked about that in another one of my videos where I gave a testimony about depression. In my 20s, I did go to church when I had problems. Okay, I was up there crying my heart out. Okay, and I had a best friend. One of my best friends and her mom were just like always into the Lord, and they would always invite me to church. And I would call her every time I was having issues, and she would be like, "You need to go to church." And so I would be crying at the church when I had problems. But it wasn't until 2017, which was probably my late 20s. I can't remember if I was 27 or 28 around that time, that I was like, okay, you know what? My life feels like it's a mess. I need to try. I've been trying all these other things. I need to try Jesus. Somebody told me Jesus is the way. So I was like, you know what? Let me try the way. All right. Who, the way? Goodness, that's a word. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is kind of give a brief overview of from the year 2017 into now. And just because I think it's important that we understand that the walk to with Jesus and come in a relationship with God, the Father, the Holy Spirit, Jesus as a son, it's just a process, and everybody's process is different. Just like all of our lives, our walks are different. And so never look to anyone's story to be like yours. We're all different, but we can all share our story, which would give others a view into what it is like, or to let others know that they're going through the same thing, or to build community with each other, and just to share our testimonies. And that's really what we're called to do in the kingdom, because by our testimony is how others will be drawn into Christ. So hopefully you out there sharing, okay? So 2017, like I said, that was the year I decided to get serious about the Lord. I was just like, I felt like my life was like a disaster. I felt like I was just depressed. I had anxiety. My marriage was going through it. I was going through it as a mom. I was just like, and my life is in disorder, okay? And I was just tired. I had tried all these things that they told me bring healing. I had studied other religions. I was trying like meditation and chakra healing and all of those things, and yeah, they just didn't work. Okay, it ain't do nothing. Okay, it was just people was giving me rocks and all these crystals, and they ain't do nothing. It just didn't do nothing. So I was like, you know what? Let me try Jesus. That year, my husband and we found a church that was located near our home, and we actually started doing marriage counseling with the pastors. And then that's how we started actually going to the church. So the church ended up becoming like a family to us. We were new to Los Angeles, and so it was a place where it literally felt like a family. Like we had a mom and dad. Like the pastors were much older, and they kind of took us in under their wing. We were young, wild, crazy kids, okay? Crazy, toxic. And so they kind of took us under their wing and just began to really disciple us. They taught us about the Bible. They taught us about who Jesus is. They not only taught us, they showed us by how they were living. Not only the pastors, but there was other pastors and leaders in the church who kind of just took us in and were like family for us. And that's the year I really established a foundation about who God was and what my life could look like if I really chose to follow Christ. And so, yeah, through a good Bible believing, Bible teaching, discipleship type of church where the focus is on helping you to develop your own relationship with Christ, because you have to have your own. All right, that was 2017. Okay, that was again my first year. I was like, this gonna be a serious thing. Like, I ain't got time to play no more. I think I was like 28. I think I was 28. Okay, don't quote me on that because I had to go back and count the years. 2018. So in 2018, I had been in church for a year. I had been in counseling with my pastors, and I was starting to do some healing. But your girl was still wild. Okay, I was still a little wild. Okay, I was still having a lot of issues. Okay, my mouth is crazy. My mind was still just not in a good place. But I was growing because I was going to church. I decided to go to church consistently, in Bible study consistently, and stay in counseling. And I was consistent on all of those things from 2017 into 2018. And I started to see a shift. I actually started keeping a journal. So I saw a shift in how I was growing in relationship with God. Like, I started to pray some. I got baptized. I had a journal. I was writing everything down, the experiences I was having at church, what I was learning. Also, I was writing down my personal study time that I would have with the Lord, like my private time that I would have and pray. And the Lord was actually speaking to me. Like, when I go back to look, I didn't know, like, for sure at the time. When I go back to look at the journals, I'm like, wow, it's crazy. Okay, this was the year 2017, the year I said, let's get serious. 2018, I started to grow and I got baptized. 2019, okay, this was a year that I had grown a lot. I had grown a lot. At this time, I was working in the church. I was serving in different departments in my church. I had been in counseling and therapy with the pastors for like 2 years at that point. I had just grown in my relationship with the Lord. I had built a prayer closet, gave that testimony in one of my videos, like how prayer closet really changed the game for my relationship with Christ. But I really had grew in my relationship with the Lord to the point where I was just spending a lot of time with God, and He had begun to really refine me this year. This was the year He began to really work on my character and teach me about who I was being and how my behavior was affecting myself, those around me, me as a mom, a wife, a sister, a friend, at work, all of that. The Lord had really begun to show me myself. I remember my pastor at the time, shout out to Pastor Cheryl. She was amazing first lady pastor at the church. She had always said this prayer like, I want the Lord to show me me. And I started saying that, y'all. Be careful when you start saying that, because the Lord don't be playing. He gonna start showing you for real. And He did. He started to really refine me. He also started to refine my behavior. There were certain things the Lord began to tell me to stop doing this year. And I ain't gonna lie, it felt like a lot. Like, I've given a testimony about some of the things. Like, that year, He told me to stop smoking weed. He told me to stop dancing a certain way. Yeah, He started talking about what I was listening to and what I was watching, and He would teach me why these things were affecting my life. And yeah, that was a year. That was a lot happening this year, but it was a lot of growth because I began to see the changes in myself and in my relationship with the Lord, how I was hearing Him, how He was teaching me to see and to hear in the spirit, and how He was teaching me to become as a woman, who He was teaching me to become as a woman. And so, yeah, that was 2019. And what else happened? Oh, yeah. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll be getting a little bit caught up. That was 2019. So 2017, I decided to try Jesus, get serious. 2018, I got baptized, got a journal, worked at the church, served. 2019, grow my relationship tremendously. I was getting refined in character and in habits that year. I would say that was the focus of a year if I want to give an overview of 2019, refining character and habits. 2020, whew, yeah, 2020 was a wild year, okay? For us all, that's the year that COVID hit. At the end of 2019, it was very interesting. The Lord, like I said, that was a refining year, and He had started talking about my habits and my character, and within that year, He started to talk to me about my giftings and the gifts that He put inside me and what He wanted me to do with them, the gifts of my family and where He was going to send us and things like that. And so that was in 2019. So when 2020 hit, yeah, I entered a wilderness. It was like, and a wilderness is a season that you go into sometimes with the Lord, where you go into a processing season, and it seems like you are literally like your whole world is shifted. It's like a crushing, okay? It's a crushing of and the crushing is so that you will grow and so that you can go to the next level. And that kind of what happened that year. I In 2020, I started to notice that there was just a shift. Obviously there was a shift in the world, but there was a shift in what the Lord was calling me to do. At the time, I was styling. I was a celebrity stylist, and I was working in the entertainment industry. And that year, my business partner actually ended up moving, and so the business shifted and eventually closed. But it was just like a huge shift. Shifts like that happened that year. The pandemic, the church, the original church I went to closed down that year. Well, at the end of 2018, and we didn't have a church home, so we were like in a wilderness there. My business shifted. Oh my gosh, daughter went into teen years, and it was just a huge shift, okay, in our relationship. Like, it was just everything around me shifted. On top of the world was experiencing COVID, and so listen, we was all going through it, okay? It was like a whole, okay, like I was saying, 2020, hold on, what is 2020? It's not like Tony. 2020 is the year that I went through a wilderness. I entered into a wilderness, and the Lord really began to separate me and call me out of everything that I knew. Everything shifted. The world shifted. My world shifted. My work shifted. My marriage shifted. My children shifted. It was just like, whoa. I went into a season of isolation that year, reconstruction, more refining, lots of trials and tribulations. It felt like that year hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like, what is going on? We actually ended up going back to Oklahoma, where we're from, for like 8 months in that season. And so, yeah, 2020 wilderness year. So 2017 decided to try Jesus for reals. 2018 got baptized. 2019 grew in relationship in a prayer closet. I call that refining in character and refining habits year, and the announcing of my gifts. 2020 wilderness, crushing, trials. It was a lot. All right, I'll do more testimonies on that. 2021 was more of the same of 2020. Yeah, I remember we were still in COVID at this time, and so it was just more of me being and developing that relationship with God. I spent most of my days with the Lord. Remember, there wasn't anything going on, and for what I did for work, I was just on pause, and my business was on pause. Everything had been paused at that time. So I was spending pretty much every day, most of my day, with the Lord, besides, obviously being a wife and mom and doing all those things. But the Lord began to teach me new biblical principles and standards, like really studying the word. 2021, that's where we were at. So yeah, that was still continuing to be refined, more of what was happening in 2020, still being in that wilderness season of being processed. I remember 2021 is a year that I just began to be in a lot of intercession, a lot of prayer time, interceding for myself and my family. This was also in 2020 as well. In 2019, but it got really deeper in 2021. So lots of intercession for my family and for other people and for the church and for people I knew during that time, and for the world, really, because we were during the COVID. That was the year I really learned to intercede and pray for others. Also, I started deliverance at the end of 2021. It was when I very first started my journey with going through going through deliverance sessions. I started at a church in LA, and so yeah, so lots of processing that year. Literally, it was so much so that my family thought I was depressed because I would just spend all of my time praying and being in my word. And so I wasn't. It's just when you're going through those seasons when the Lord isolates you or brings you to a period of just being alone, it's not to harm you, it's really to grow you. And He needs you to be alone to learn how to be with Him and hear His voice and study His word and whatever else it is that He wants to teach you in that season, if that makes sense. So never be afraid of being alone, because there's a reason why the Lord has you alone.
He wants to grow you. That's often the reason in different areas.
And so, yes, 2021, year I started deliverance, the year I was really grown in intercession, deeper relationship with the Lord. And now we on to 2022. We were still in COVID. 2022. So I had grown a lot. At this point, I felt a lot more mature in my relationship with the Lord. It was like, the Lord actually told me, like, okay, I won't even say that. But I had grown a lot with the Lord that year. And like I said, I was going through inner healing and deliverance, and I actually was still getting caught up in a lot of things in my mind. It was really because I wasn't letting go of the past, but that ain't what this testimony is about, so I ain't gonna go there, but we'll do a testimony about that one day. But I was going through deliverance, and I just felt like some things I still wasn't grasping. And I had came across a inner healing and deliverance service, and this is where I actually signed up to be in inner healing and deliverance for 6 months. And so inner healing and deliverance partners therapy with the ministry of deliverance, and takes you through a process of being delivered, which it's one of my favorite ways to do deliverance ministry, because I believe it helps you to get to the root of what's taking place and pluck it up. And a lot of it has to do with renewing of the mind, which therapy is great for renewing of the mind. And you need time in therapy to renew your mind. And so that's what I did for 6 months in 2022. It was amazing. I love my therapist. I still love her. Man, I need to book some more appointments with her. She's so good. I miss talking to her. I stayed in that for 6 months continuously, and then I actually stayed in it, I think, the whole year. But yeah, for continuous for the first 6 months, and then you do your deliverance at the end, and that was very releasing for me. That was the year I finally closed my styling business, and I mean, it was basically, we weren't really moving because I think the Lord had kind of shifted me and my business partner away from that. But I closed it and I was devastated, but I had to come out of it because the Lord was moving in a new direction. That's a whole nother testimony. But the inner healing and deliverance really helped me to renew my mind and get to a place where I understood that my life's purpose was not about me. It was about serving the Lord, and all the things that I had been through, I experienced the trauma, the good, the bad. It all had brought me to this place, but I couldn't hold on to the trauma in order to walk forward and really become a daughter of the living God. Okay. So that's what deliverance 2022, that's what happened in 2022. And so that year I really understood the assignment He had for me a little bit better, and I understood that I was a daughter. And so my mind was being renewed. Romans 12:2, that was a big scripture that year for the Lord. He broke it down to me in such a different way that I had to, like, he took me back and back to it a number of times to like get me, hey girl, this is what you need to do. So shout out to the Lord. He's so graceful and patient with us, man. In 2023, that's where we at today. 2023, it's August. No, is it August? It's September now, 2023. And so over the journey over the last couple years with the Lord has been a very, I don't know, I always say crazy because I don't be having the words to describe what the journey has been. It's been crazy, it's been amazing, it's been traumatic, but not because of the Lord, because of me. It's been changing, it's been miraculous. I've seen miracles, healing, I've seen what my prayer can do. Not only my own self, for my family, for friends, for others. I've seen the Lord work in such magnificent ways that there is no doubt in my mind that there is a God and that I am one of his vessels. I am one of his daughters. I can walk confidently in the fact that I am a daughter of God and that he has a purpose and assignment here for me, specifically for me, that I am going to step into. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now, 2023. I really had to let go a lot of a lot from the past. I learned that I didn't need to carry it. I didn't have to carry it, and I didn't need it. I needed to just let go of any baggage. Let it go. Like Frozen. Remember Frozen? If you got kids, you do remember Frozen. But you just have to let go of the baggage, okay? Let go of anything you're carrying from your past so that you can really walk free in your mind so that the Lord can then put within you what it is he needs you to do. And so I feel like that's the space that I'm at. And I'm excited. It's still a journey because I have to. The faith walk is an everyday walk. Like every day I have to go back to the Lord and say, Lord, because a lot of it I can't see, but I just walk and believe that he's going to do everything that he told me he's going to do. Everything that he promised in his word, he's going to do. And that is the walk by faith. And it's not an easy journey. That's one of the reasons why I told the Lord, you know what, when you begin to set me free, Lord, I'm going to go tell other people about this process because it's a process. It's not easy. Every day you have to humble yourself. Every day you need to talk to the Lord. Every day I have to say, okay, Lord, this ain't looking like what you said, but I'm going to keep believing you. And he, along the way, gives you those nuggets, gives you confirmation, send people to help you, heals you, just does all of these miraculous things along the path of the journey. But it's still a journey and it's still life, and you still got to climb, you still got to walk every single day, you still got to submit to him. And so yeah, just wanted to share a little overview of my process and how I've been walking with the Lord. I pray that this encourages you or anyone else you may know. I pray that that in your journey you would understand that the Lord is processing you in a specific way, and it's just for you. Like, your process will be different from the next person. My process is different from yours, and that's okay. That's a good thing. The Bible says that he gives each of us gifts. Each of us, okay? And the gifts, they are different and they operate different, and our lives are different, and that is how we all come together for community. I pray this bless you all. Thank you all for watching. Leave any comments or questions below. See you next time.